And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of This Is Our Life. Um, so, sometimes it's good talk talk about things. And a very dear friend of mine in San Antonio now works for a home health and hospice company, and she attended her first death today. And Jen, I know it's not necessarily the easiest thing. Um, I'll tell you about. I used to volunteer for Vitas in San Antonio, and I'll tell you about the first death I attended. It wasn't my first death, but it was the first death I attended, so to speak. Anyway, um, it was Christmas. When we had patients in nursing homes. We had patients. Most patients lived in their own homes. At that point, we didn't have an inpatient unit, but they do now. They, I don't know where it is. One point, it was At one point, it was at Methodist Specialty. Then they moved it to what used to be Methodist Women and Children. And I don't know where it is now. Maybe still be one of those two places. But yeah, it's lucky. Um, it was Christmas. I just didn't want to see my patients in a nursing home by themselves on Christmas Day. I show up at the nursing home. I don't remember the name of it. It was not on 410, but near 410 over on the west side. And like I said, I show up. I'm not thinking anything of it. I see the nurse and the chaplain. When I saw the nurse and chaplain, I knew I knew somebody had died or they were about to die or whatever. And we go upstairs to the room, and they already had the body wrapped up and everything. I don't know if you have to do that, but we had to learn how to. Well, I never had to wrap a body. That would be like the nurse and the nursing home staff and stuff. But there's a way to wrap the body. And one, once I was at uh, a university hospital in the ER, and I'm sitting there, and there's this body, and it's wrapped up, and I know what that means. Okay, it's not somebody who's just covered up. The body's wrapped up, and the body jerks, and at first I'm like, oh, sometimes that happens when a person dies, but at least they had the body wrapped up. I mean, it wasn't just laying there for everybody to see. But and my mother is she doesn't really talk anymore, and she falls a lot. So I don't know. I don't know how long she has, but she's on hospice care now. Some people with Alzheimer's live for a very, very long time, which personally I don't like because they sure like it. To me, if you have Alzheimer's, you're probably suffering. Um, yeah, but my wife and I went and saw her. What was that, 2 or 3 years ago? About 2 years ago. And sorry, my eyes are itching. And we had to tell her who we were. She saw my beard, which wasn't even close to this length then. And wow, you have a long beard, and or something like that. And I told her who I was. My wife, introduced my wife, and And then we were talking to the nurse or whatever, and something in my eye. And they were walking her. One of the techs or whatever was walking her to her room, and she said, "That's my husband." At least she had some idea that I was related to her. I know you can do this, Jen. I know you can. I mean, I can sit here and I can tell you from experience that hospice isn't always the most enjoyable thing in the world. But I found it very rewarding to meet some of the people that I met, to talk to some of the people that I got to talk to listen to some of those people. Mrs. Comer, I don't think I'm supposed to really say names, but that was a long time ago. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. She was what, 102 years old.
Oh my.
Yeah. She she had her mind.
She was in their body.
Yeah, she had her mind up to the day she died. The day she died, she was in and out of it. But yeah, she didn't have her body. She couldn't get up and move around. But they could put her in a wheelchair, and she'd go out into like the day room and stuff. But my first death was a patient I actually never got to meet in person because she was one of those people who she didn't like to go out unless she was all made up and well dressed and things like that. And because she was dying, she didn't look the best, I guess, or at least for her. She, the way she felt, she didn't look good, so she didn't want to see anybody. I mean, she had a nurse go by. She had a well, I don't know, she had a nurse, but I would talk to her on the phone, and she was really nice. She was a really nice person. And I go in to work. I mean, I work 5 days a week, so I didn't work like 8 hours, but I worked like 5, 6 hours a day. And I go in one day, and Steve, my supervisor, he's like, "Mrs. So and So passed away last night," and I was shocked. I wanted to slam my fist down on the desk and cuss out Steve. It wasn't his fault. I mean, I knew, eventually she was going to die, but I had worked there for a long time without a single patient of mine dying. And after that, it seems like they didn't just die one after the other, but it became more of the norm that they would die. But
You can't live forever either.
right, that's true. Um, I don't know where Steve went. His wife got a job in D.C., I think, or Northern Virginia, and I think he moved with her up there. And um, oh goodness, what? I'm forgetting his name. Um, Hector Rivera. He was our bereavement coordinator, and I don't know where he is now. I don't know what company he works for. I sent him a wedding invitation, but I don't know if it was him. I mean, I just figured, I mean, the way I was looking things up, I figured it's probably him. So never heard anything back from him though. But hospice can be extremely rewarding, yet extremely difficult. And I have a feeling if you haven't already, you're going to find some patients that are going to make you crack up. Sometimes, because once a patient has accepted their situation, it's like they become a whole new person. It's like they become alive again. Um, a lot of people think, well, you're dying, you must be so depressed, you must be so upset. Well, of course, you have the stages of death. Um, but and a lot of people, once they've accepted it, they're probably happier than 90% of the people on the face of the earth. Uh, and the last time you said we were in San Antonio a couple of years ago or so. You hurt me again.
Probably a year ago, I think, wasn't it?
Mm.
I think it was last year we were there.
Um,
We only made one trip. That's enough.
yeah.
It was nothing short of torture.
Yeah, that trip on the bus. It wasn't just that; it was on the drive back. But anyway, if you toss, they used to be at 410 in Fredericksburg. Then they moved further down Fredericksburg. I don't know if that's where they're still at or what, but now before that they were in the Koger Center. So they went from the Koger Center. That's when I started volunteering with them, and then they went over to 410 in Fredericksburg, and I left. Look, Jen, if you eventually wind up having to leave hospice, believe me, I understand. A lot of people just you have to take that break. It can be, like I said, it rewarding, but it can really weigh on you too. Because what started getting to me is in the mornings when I'd go in. Sometimes I'd work in medical records, and especially on Mondays, you go in, and behind the door was a bookcase. When you open the door, it covered this bookcase. Well, when you went in and closed the door, you could see this bookcase, and that's where we kept the charts of people that had expired over the weekend. And you go in, you see two or three of them. Sometimes you see 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 of them, and you realize that was a human being. That was a real person. And you may even have known one of those people, Seamus. And in some cases, I did. I would not give up what I did for anything. It can be hard, but like I said, it's very rewarding. But anyway, that's all I have to say.